I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to talk to my audience and share with them some of the latest things that are happening in the marketing world. The world keeps changing very rapidly, and unless a company keeps learning new marketing, it's going to be practicing the old marketing and not succeed. Marketing must focus on the job of enhancing the life of the consumer or the customer. In other words, the job of a marketer is to create value that meets needs and satisfies needs of a distinct group of target customers or prospects that the company wants to reach and serve. In a sense, marketing is a servant idea. Just like any leader is someone who should be good to their followers, a marketer should always be good to the customers. Now, I define more recently a larger idea of who should be satisfied by marketing. Not only should the marketer satisfy the needs of the target customer, but also satisfy the employees of the firm and the distributors and the salespeople and the community. And actually, my expanded view of good marketing is called the triple bottom line, that the best marketing occurs in satisfying profits, achieving profits, satisfying people, and satisfying the planet. In the past, it was you would be a winning company just to have a good quality product at the right price. But you know, you'll get copycats. You'll have some charging a lower price for that good quality product that they make. So you may need some other ways to strengthen your brand. One of the ways is not just to say we have better quality and so on. No, how about your values? What is your purpose as a firm? What do you think you're achieving? Is it a motivating thing that you're achieving? Are you making people happier? Are you making life easier, better for people? Always straighten out your purpose. Now, you may have other values as a company. And if you do, and if you really care about those, you might even choose some value that you will add as a social cause. Let me give you an illustration. The Avon Company is well known because they started off by knocking on doors of homes and saying, we're the Avon lady and we're here to help the housewife, maybe needs some cleaning material or some ideas. And the Avon Company grew just on the basis of doing a good job. But they also recognized that since their clients are women, there's a lot of problems that women have, one of which is being so scared of the idea of maybe breast cancer. breast cancer. And Avon decided that it's going to show its care for women by doing whatever it can to raise money, to help raise money that will produce better science, better treatment for people who are women who are afflicted with this problem. And that's their cause. Now, we could take any company and say we can define their cause. I mean, an automobile company should be worried about good roads and safe roads. A pharmaceutical company should be worried about the safety of the kind of drug that they're selling and so on. And so I find that more companies are trying to distinguish themselves, add a extra idea of where they're better than their competitors by bringing out some value that they are not just talking about, but they're living. I think that we have realized that a company will even do better for the shareholders if it thinks of more than the shareholders. It needs to think of the stakeholders. I think there's absolutely strong evidence that companies that run for the interests of the stakeholders, those who are affected by everything the company does, and I'm talking about the employees and the communities and the planet and so on, those companies actually are more profitable in the long run.
Know what that structure is that's putting out that dense black smoke?
And they don't give it a second thought.
I will tell you, last night I noticed that there was a yellow cab.
Got it a building there next to the Burger King there on Vermont. Now, in addition, we passed along the way I-Magnum's, Bullets Wilshire. It's the same store now there on
Do you think the jury would have had the demographics that it had? The jury would have reflected. You're supposed to be. Law says I'm not a lawyer.
But the third was the computer, but the fourth was the internet and digital. And in the fourth industrial revolution, we are finding that artificial intelligence, AI, robots, and other technologies have come into being, particularly what we call the mobile phone, the smartphone, that we are basically giving a person to put into their pocket or pocketbook a computer that will let them know at any moment what products are available, where they could be obtained, what their price might be, and how reputable the company is, how trustworthy. All I have to do, I don't even have to look at my smartphone. I could ask Siri. Siri is that voice which immediately listens to my question and goes and finds out if I say, what is the top selling firm that sells shaving lotion? She will know. Siri will know. So this is the new world we're in. It is centered on computers and the internet and all those extra organizations that you know as Facebook, you know it as Google, and several others, Twitter, LinkedIn. So we now live in a new world. Well, one disruptive technology is the coming out of the sharing economy, where we find out that many people have purchased goods that they don't use much of the time. Best example would be the automobile, which may sit idle for most of the day before anyone uses it. And that led to the idea that people who own the automobile might as well sell the use of it or be a taxi driver. And you know that's happened with bedrooms. Some homes may have an additional space to sleep, to use it. So the sharing economy can be disruptive of a lot of existing industries. The other disruption that has caught my attention is what's happening with Amazon. Amazon is originally a bookstore, online bookstore. But Mr. Jeff Bezos has been the genius who imagined selling anything you might want, not just books, and not just the common electronic products, but also selling clothing, selling furniture, online. And so what I'm noticing is how disruptive this is, especially hurting retail stores. That's very disruptive for a lot of traditional firms that now are trying to figure out, how do you get people into a store when you don't have to go to the store to see anything unless you want to touch the product? The problem is, even if the shopper goes into the store and likes the product, the shopper takes out the iPhone, the smartphone, and says, I think I can get a better price from another store or from online. And so now that creates a problem for the retailer, who either says, I'm sorry, I don't lower or change the price, or is smart and says, let's talk about it. Our service is better. Maybe we can give you a special discount. So that is very much disruptive of normal business practice. I think every retailer is going to have to train the clerks to know when to compromise the offer or when to say, no, I don't make any changes. You pay what it says. Any company whose marketers are still thinking of the old world and pushing out the product, they're going to be very short-lived. It is essential for the companies today to move to the new marketing, and the new marketing is internet-based, digital-based marketing. you'll have to decide as a company to also allow your goods to be purchased not only in a store but also online. And then as far as B2B, business to business, they are moving very rapidly into using the digital world to sell and to work with their clients and customers. Well, what makes a strong brand is so many things. The history of the company, the leadership's ideas, and so on. There's a company called LL Bean, which sells outdoor wear, namely jackets and boots and shoes for going out in the outdoors and hunting, or or when the weather's cold. And if you're disappointed, just take it back and they'll give you a replacement until you're satisfied. Because the signature story they use in their promotion of their brand is the one where a man came back to the store 5 years later with a pair of boots that he bought, and he said, I thought these boots would last for 10 years. That's what your salesman said. It's now 5 years old and they're not very good anymore. The store, without question, said, sorry, then that's our fault, not your fault. Here's a new pair of boots. Now, once you have a story like that, which we call a signature story, it helps build up the brand. So now let's even take a more contemporary brand like Unilever. Unilever is under the leadership of the CEO. His name is Paul Polman. He has a great idea about Unilever. He says that what we want to do is double our profitability over a certain number of years without any damage to the environment. We are so careful about our impact on the environment that it will be zero harm to the environment, and we're going to still double our business. Too many companies try to double their business, and there's a lot of harm they do. So I would say that building a strong brand means that you have to have a story. A brand is a narrative. And it's a different narrative for different people to some extent. Take McDonald's. McDonald's has a very broad image, but it has a different brand. It's a brand with a different meaning for the mother with the child and the reason she should go to McDonald's. It's a different brand for the senior citizen who is hungry and why he would like to sit down in McDonald's. And they have a different story for the full family that comes to McDonald's. So even when there's a very broad brand, you still create narratives, different narratives. We call this brand journalism. Just like a journalist is a reporter, you have a different story for each type of person who might be helped by that product or experience. A company knows that it has to watch the world that's in for new trends, new competitors, new ideas, and take as many of them under consideration. It must recognize that the change might really be a very difficult problem for the company. So how to innovate, there's many possibilities. What about Starbucks? Starbucks, what made a coffee house a major world brand? What did Howard Schultz, their CEO, do? He said, when you come to Starbucks, it's really your third home. It's not just an experience, it's your third home. Your first home is your family. Your second home is your office. Your third home is Starbucks. You bring your computer, you sit down, you tell your friend to meet you there, you spend as much time. You're not paying to sit down in Starbucks, you're just paying for the coffee. And you have so much coffee, so many varieties. So that's what makes a great brand is a great idea. And executed well and thoroughly and holistically. And the other is called winning at innovation, which is when you have an idea, let's be sure you run it carefully, enthusiastically, and get it launched because it was a great idea. And doing that well, we worked on what we call the people that get involved in a successful idea. You have to have in your company an idea person. We call that an activist, a person who comes up with ideas all the time. And that any good idea you give to a browser. That's a person who will research whether it's an original idea, whether it has a good market size. And then if the browser has found out this is a very new and good idea, turn it over to the third group, which is a creative team, who can create and develop, create the concept, the price, the features. And if that looks good, turn it over to the development group. The development group is going to actually make it and even develop the factory which will make that new product. And then turn it over finally to the salespeople in the marketing department for them to launch the product. And then make sure that the finance people are giving you enough money to do the job at the right level. And we call this the A to F. Every business might be disrupted, especially if that business is not watching what's happening. And so I tell companies they should get into what we call scenario planning. Now, the present picture that the company is dealing with, that's itself a scenario. In other words, they have 3 competitors maybe, they have a price war going on. Whatever the scenario is, it is what it is. But they should imagine other possible scenarios. So you should really get into choosing maybe 3 or 4 scenarios. One has to be a pessimistic scenario. What is the worst that might happen to your company in terms of disruptions? From who and why? And if it did happen, what plan would you be using to survive? But also have an optimistic scenario. Now, for example, you might say this: which scenario should I plan on? The pessimistic or the optimistic? Well, now we get the probabilities. Looking at the pessimistic scenario, what's the overall probability of that being the nature of the world at the time? Maybe about 20%. And the optimistic scenario, well, that's much more likely. Well, you got to always bet. That's what business is. It's a matter of betting on the bright future. And no one can tell you what the bright future is, but if you use probabilities and pictures of scenarios, that helps very much in widening your grasp of the kinds of disruptions that might take place. Well, every company should ask this question: why would our target customers buy from us as opposed to buying from our competitors? What is the case that we are actually making about our product that will get them to want to buy our product? That's a very important question. The second thing is, what is the purpose of our business? Is it a narrow purpose, which is to make the best quality products at the best price, or is it a more holistic purpose? You know, we sometimes say that as a farmer, you could ask the farmer, what is your job? And he could say, I'm growing corn. But a better answer would be, I'm feeding the world. So the idea of putting a larger purpose on a business can unleash energy from the employees, the investors. Everyone in life wants to feel they're doing something meaningful. What can that company do to make what they do more meaningful to more people, more enhancing?